Come link with me under the Iroko tree. Make a reason to every season. Speaking the truth for the youths. Maintaining the spiritual rules. Maintaining the spiritual rules. Maintaining the spiritual rules.
Blessed love, blessed love, blessed love. Welcome forward again under the Iroko tree. Iroko reasoning, spiritual roots. Tapping into the spiritual roots of things, as always. I want to give thanks for the supporters thus far, and I want to apologize to those who've been looking forward to what we do and realize that we're not put out nothing for a while. It's just that we make a move, and we're there, which part them call country here, and the internet is not so up, you know. As we can hear a lot of students bawling out, teachers as well, based on this internet thing, which is not working out so well for those in the so-called country areas. Yeah, so that's the reason. So hopefully going forward we can even drop one thing per month till we get sorted out and can do more than that. Yeah man, so we give thanks, and we say welcome forward. I say Hotep, Uncle Jas and Neb, as we come in the energies and spirits of Ubuntu. My act. I would say give thanks to universal nature. Everything we know is happening by the way of nature, and we realize that that's where God is, or what God is. Because every experience we have within this divine experience is by the way of nature. I would say nature, when I just talk trees, grass and trees and birds and bees, is us as human as well, H-U-E. You know what I mean? So everything happen where we are a natural happening as well, especially by the way of the law of attraction, man and woman, and coming together and reproducing. So that's nature in its greatest works, you know. I will give thanks. So for me, other God exists but the laws of nature. And then I want to give thanks to the ancestors, those who taught us what to do and what not to do. Yes. So it's a universal blessings, African family, world family. Welcome forward. I hope everyone is good as much as possible within this crazy time. And once there is life, we just give thanks and keep moving forward. Yes. So universally we say tap into the ecosystem. Yeah man, tap into the eco and then find a balance with the ego. Because when the ego is too much, then we realize what happened. Beer negativity that bring. And that one pass to youth them. So within this time we need to make sure so we have to take care of our health. And trust me, enough of the food them and the medication we want around our backyard, especially for those who are in the what we call country areas. You know, so it might be a little bit harder for the rest of we in the concrete jungle. But yeah man, do some research, find out what the good weeds and herbs around you and use those. So we say the key to good health is knowledge and the use of that knowledge, not the increase of the medication dosage. So the key to good health is knowledge and the use of that knowledge, not the increase of medication dosage or pharmaceutical dosage, whichever way we want to look on it. Yes? Alright, so we're jumping on the topic of the reasoning now. And we say government. And then we say what government. So I think the first thing we need to address when we talk about government is to realize and acknowledge and know and accept and then move within that knowledge that we, what them call the average man or the common people, but majority, and we are the government. Yes? So for understand that those who are supposed to be representing us, I'm going to use the word supposed very strongly because they are politicians and parliamentarians. They are not the government. We, the people, should know that we are the government. These people are in the position they are in because we decide to allow them to be in that position. But somehow them flip the script one way. So when them get in that position now, them use it as power over we. So they make decisions on our behalf. No consultation really. It's after them sign off on certain things, then we know about it, which is not so supposed to go. But we complicit and we for blame because we sit down and we allow all of these things for them to go through. And we now come together and stand up in the way we're supposed to stand up against these things. So politicians and parliamentarians, they are employees. We employ them to work on behalf of us. As I said, them flip the script and we end up a work for them instead of them a work for we. So them become the boss. And as I say, we for blame because we can't govern ourselves or we don't see ourselves powerful enough to govern ourselves. Then we leave it to a few to govern the majority. And something wrong with that for me. So it's just like the stoplight, because the one where I drive, no figure, so them for slow down and check the intersection and do what them for do. It force the next man up to put up a stoplight to tell us that you for stop and for take yourself out of danger. Yes? So if me can't protect myself enough, then how am I gonna care enough to protect the next man? So that's why we end up under this regime. A man feels them for overpower you, for you do something good for yourself. And we need to check that within ourselves, everyone away. So we establish that we the people of the government, and then we hire politicians and parliamentarians that should be working on our behalf. So what govern was meant to be is that the people, majority of the people, agree upon certain things, and then the politicians them look at it, analyze, check in, and we the politicians and we the people, the government, come together and say, all right, let's put this into law and make it go across the country and work in the benefit of all. But none of that will see happen. So when we look on something like education, which education should not be without a spiritually rooted moral principle embedded into it. So no matter where you learn maths, English, whatever, everything should have a spiritual, principled, moral groundation. So with all this information, so-called education, because we say this education is not so much about intelligence either. It's just repeating some information, and then you get lined up after you go through that information and then say you pass, whatever you pass, you now become just an applicant to sign, write up application and a resume and join a line to get work. But we don't see the big influence of intelligence to tell you become create work. Because if we really check into it and we look on the classroom and we look at how them set up the classroom and set up the factories basically the same way. So, I mean, we just need to check into these things. Within the education, if we look on something like farming, based on what me see and how those ones who go through farming, them come out, come tell us use chemical, do this, use chemical, do this, spray, get rid of weed. And then we come check and really look intelligently upon farming. We realize you don't get rid of certain things, you don't use certain chemical, because you're going into the earth and staying on the earth, and that's where the food I get its nutrient from. So therefore you're going to grow contaminated food, and then you end up with sick people. So intelligence versus education, we look upon this one. See it? So we say education supposed to have morally rooted principles, spiritually rooted principles. So when we look and see say you shouldn't have elite schools and then you have some local schools where you call rare schools, or you know why you but every school is supposed to want your youth to go, because all of them operate at a standard which is beneficial to the grooming of citizens who come contribute to society. So it shouldn't have a section of society where you only look contribution from. So based on this education we are giving, everybody's supposed to get the same standard. So therefore now that is the upliftment of the country in forward progress. So we don't have to look to one sector or one section of society to expect growth from. So education, we have to realize. And the next thing we have to check, that politicians and parliamentarians, they are running a business which them take on for themselves. So just like the other regular business out the road, we only look for money and profit. That's all this is about. So if we realize that these people are not operating from spiritually grounded morals, because if they were, then how the country is being run, it wouldn't be run that way. And we need to realize this. So that's through this so-called education, them come tell us we have 5 cents. You know what I mean? How them say smelling, hearing, feeling, tasting, whichever other one. But then you're going to have them 5 cents. I'll know we're not saying nothing about thinking. So let's say we are 6 then. Because you're supposed to have one, we're supposed to can able to govern all the others. Yes? And then there's a next way. If you look on it to realize all these things are one, because everything is connected. So intelligence we are use, or we should be using, because to be able to think your way out of things or into things is one of the most critical senses you're supposed to have. But them somehow left that out of the teachings, really, in a sense. You know what I mean? Because I guess by way of how the system is supposed to survive, based on how it has survived, then if you groom the citizens to think for themselves, then probably are going to see all of the foolishness we are going, and them are going to step within them rebelliousness, so to speak. Because so them tell we if you think about if you stand up for your right, we are being rebellious. If you stand up for your right, you stand up for your right, you're not rebellious. You know what I mean? So that's why I realize the history not even been taught how it's supposed to even be taught, you know. And within all of that history now them tell us boy 7 heroes, or you want to say 6 heroes and 1 heroine. Which all them something they're just misleading information. So them twist the information, give you a little bits and hits there and then twist up with lies and some other little something because them want to remain submissive. You know what I mean? Dumbed down and all these things, so we don't really stand up for our rights when them have we on a certain kind of oppression. So how much of that education that we so-called get is we keep it down and submissive if we really check into it. So from the historical point of view, we have more than 7 heroes. Because what about the ones them who did stand up with these heroes who them give the name of? 100 of people stand up with these, how we don't know them name? So thinking about it now, it look like if them give all of these names and all of these people as heroes, then we are going to see there's a unity. So when they really only pick out 7 people and give it, we all look and say, yeah, so much people and only 7 people did stand up, then we feel like it don't make sense. But then tell them about the 100 of people who did stand up, where them kill, whip, shoot, and beat to death. Give it all of those names. So we know say there's a unity and that the forward movement can still happen in terms of we standing up for our rights. So as a country, as a nation, we have more than 7 heroes. It's just that them never give the rest of names. So them only led with a belief that only 7 people in the whole big country did stand up for rights. There were much more. That's why I say if you do the research. So once you know your history, then that becomes the foundation for your standpoint. And then you have a better direction as to where you're supposed to go. As within the African space, again, we talked about these things before. Sankofa, which means go back, retrieve what you have to retrieve in terms of the best information and best practices. Take those, add your best practices and things to that within the present, and use all of that info now to move forward. All of that knowledge to carry forward in the best way possible. So I said the education don't have the spiritually rooted principle where it's supposed to have embedded into it along with all the rest of the information. Case in point, I go around, I hand out my little information in the scheme one day. Woke up on a young man. I'm about 13, 12, maybe 14, that's so. Give him one of my little card them now. So tell mommy and daddy to check out my channel, you know. So I say, if I'm a YouTuber, I say, yeah man, I'm young in the thing and way. So I never meet a YouTuber yet, but I talk about life. And so I tell him, I talk about life and spirituality. And he say, spirituality, what that? So I say, the little thing where you go on with in the school, and I never hear nothing about spirituality. And I say, no. So I say, you about God though? And I say, yes. So, this is what I mean. Or if I have a youth at that age going through an education system, and him probably did hear spirituality before because he never hear about it in a rooted way of he knows him going to himself and looking to himself and knows he's a spiritual being. He not get that through the system where I go through, and that me I talk about. So him can say yes, him hear about God because I guess that part of it more dominant in his head because him hear it more. But there's no spiritual connection. So these are the things. I see it in the wider society. And as we have said, that are the main system we go through, and if that main system is not giving you or feeding into you that kind of information, then you're going to be led wild and free without any guidance, really. And then we see the crime and the whole thing in a society, and we wonder where it come from and how it happened. As we said, nothing is separate. So we realize that this so-called education is being used as a dumbed down tool, you know, keep the people them submissive, so you can lead them, what they call them shepherd and sheep. And why them refer to the people as sheep is that it basically what them say we don't have no sense for ourselves, so them just lead with any way them feel like lead with. So we have said we have brilliant youths as well, naturally. So personally I feel like from 10-year-old, once we realize that the youth them have certain level of intelligence, and then based on certain knowledge we can pass on to them, I feel so from that age go straight up to whatever age them say people can vote. The youth them forget teaching us into how these things work, so them can become part of the voting system, which means them now have a say in a for them future, because all of the policies and laws them Havana have put on yaso, and them come inherit it, you know. So how come them can have a say in a for them future? And I strongly feel that's something we have to look into. So if we want to do it as a subject, a little cross subject when it comes around to election time, couple months into election, we teach them certain things and then we quiz them on it and test them on it, so them know say based on how the system stay, this is what you have to do. And then now we question them and have for them input what you like your future to be, what you want to put in place to secure your future. You know what I mean? And make the youth them have a say in them future. Because when we set all these things and left it, them just have to come inherit it and they have to just go along with it because it did this already, which make them life harder. The youth them have saying in them future. All we need for this group them and guide them. I mean from a spiritual standpoint with correct knowledge. So I make a look on democracy and based on how them use democracy right now is a falsehood, is a farce, is a lie. Because you can't have a couple handful of people decide upon some things and then come to the majority if you come vote upon that. That's not democracy. Them used to have referendum, we don't say that no more. This is where you have an idea, push it out to the public and the public say no, we don't want that, you know. Or yeah, we want that, you know. And the public come together and vote upon it and help if you push it through. As me I say, them flip the script one way. Them take on the thing like them don't remember, so them supposed to be servants. And come to we, the employee, the government, pass certain things, would agree majority rules. But we see a minority in terms of numbers is been ruling for years and decades. And we call that democracy. That's not democracy, you know. A few people can decide that thing, then have majority vote on that thing and then call it democracy. Is the majority supposed to decide? And then the majority and everybody who really agrees, once it is in majority, that's what goes into the future or is agreed upon. So these politicians and parliamentarians take on the thing to themselves, feel so them have power. So them talk around us, them talk about us, them talk above us. But if we realize that they're not talking to us. So if we realize that these parliamentarians and politicians are not operating from morals and standard, spiritually rooted principles. So that's why the thing I run how it run. So if these people were operating from a rooted, spiritually grounded principle way within themselves, then they wouldn't do certain things. And we need to realize that. Because we look on a place like the cockpit country, see it? Where beneficial to so much part of the whole country. Water, wildlife, and we say life, we talk about every life, wildlife, human life, all of the life. And you're going to disturb all of that just for one thing. That don't make no sense. Yes? And we see it again, we hear so them override these agencies who try to protect the place, government, people override some thing where the people must say, no, you can't go this, you go mine, don't in a sentence, them want to do that again. Just for one element, you're going to disturb 100 elements, people's life and wildlife and everything else around you. These people are not spiritually and morally doing what they're doing. So that's why we're seeing at the time of rain and all these things, we're going to have these crazy flooding because people are just doing so-called, what them call development, which is not development, is replacement and mashing down. So all you have to take with farmlands from farmers and go plant concrete and call that development. And just replacement that. Development is when you add to something that's already there. So you have the value of that plus the value of what you have added. That is development. You know, erase and take away and destroy and then put back one little thing that's one say you develop. And I say it work. Again, we the people need to be blamed even more than them because we are sit down and allow these things. See, we go back to the education. That's why them not teach the history the way it's supposed to be taught. Them not teach Marcus Garvey in school. Because Marcus Garvey did say, when you find a politician guilty of corruption, using the people's resources in the way where it's not supposed to be used, we're supposed to find the biggest square in the country and beat out them rusty cloth, you know. So them not going to teach you that. And we see that every hero's day, them come around with them hypocritical self. And I talk about follow the resilience and the strength of the ancestors. But them don't want that. Because of them see when I go roll out these forces, the police and the soldier forces, if we come beat we and lock we up and kill we off because we are stand up for our rights and then them call it rebellion. So we're rebellious. You know what I mean? When a justice we are stand up for ourselves and for we pitney them future. So them only come here time come say these things because them know them system already set for dumb we down and them realize say half of the things them what them are do we not unify and stand up against them. So them can come talk these things because them know say boy we not gonna really take it on. So if we understand so these police and soldiers they came about from Backer Master days. So it wasn't about making these forces a way of protecting the people and serving the people. It was to protect a barrier between them and us. So when them oppress it to the point where we can't take it no more, we decide so we're going to stand up for our rights, then these forces were between we and them to kill we have before we reach to them. So that's where these things have come from. Up till to the day it's not about protecting us. And we look on criminal law, and we hear about criminal law is not for what we would call so-called criminal out there. So this criminal law what them are defend. A criminal law, listen to the name, is defending criminals and protecting criminals. So these laws came about from a criminal standpoint to protect criminals. It wasn't for the benefit of the people. So if we look into these things, So again, are we the politicians, are we the government is supposed to be blamed to allow politicians to be getting away with the things they're getting away with? That's why we say these laws are not putting them into jail and putting them into the punishment what them need to get when them do them corruption and misuse the resources. And if we realize that everything that is being done in this country, from school, religion, every sector, is still being operated based on Marx's handbook of oppression. Not change, it just look a little different. But it's the same oppressive system. Them take on the side of who them related to was on the slave master side, and then them continue to teach we to maintain ourselves in a submissive slave kind of way. I want to say there was never ever any slave. Nobody is born as a slave, but people were enslaved. So if we check that too, nobody was ever a slave, but people were enslaved. So everything majority, if everything we are run honestly, including politicians and the business where them are run, is everybody's running a free business. Because we realize we pay tax in every way, every move we make, we are being taxed. We buy stuff for our own benefit, we are being taxed. We go to work, our wages is being taxed. So when them come out and say them do this for we, they're not doing anything for us. It is just taking what we give them to use it back. So if you understand the mind game that's been played, a free business them are run, they're not taking anything from their pockets to give us and say, boy, this is from us. Everything that they have is we them take it from. How we go work, how we do all of the majority. If the country stop work for a day, would I hear how them ball out how the country lose? So that will tell us how we are the contributing force. We need to check into these things and demand that the business that is being run is supposed to be run on our behalf. Because we are pay for it. Every move we make we get taxed. So they are not doing anything for us. But somehow them get to believe that. So within these parties where we can go dance and have fun, them have we so divided that if we see injustice go on a sentence, we with the St. Elizabeth and the rest of the country figure say, that's a sentence that happen. We're not business with that. We can't stand, we don't have time to stand up for that. We need to figure out where we get the money. So everything is being run based on money. So now them have we only thinking about money. If we really look on it. So if we realize that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So when I think I go on a sentence, if we have the foresight, we say if we allow it to go through a sentence, say a couple months or a few years ago and take for you reach we are Kingston. So Kingston supposed to stand up for the issue we are going in a sentence right now. But as I said, through the education thing, them tell you about 7 heroes. So if we get the hundreds of people that work with these heroes, and we know say hundreds of people we have as heroes. So that them take out the unity out of we write this up. And we need to realize these things. So what government was meant to do is work in a beneficial way for majority of the people within the country or the nation. But none of that we see happen because them grow to be submissive and divided. That's why when I say all we have to do is look into nature and adapt the principles of nature. The principles of nature does not change when we talk about personal life and otherwise within society. Once we adapt these principles, then everything should run smooth. Because if we check nature, if this year the mango tree, we have 50 mango tree, with the season for mango bear and come, that's going to happen. Well, let's say next year for some reason we lose only one of that tree left. We lose the next 49. The principles of nature still going to make that one mango tree come and be fruitful within the season. So nature's law and principles does not change. So these are the things we need to adapt, tap into nature and learn from nature as much as possible and make that a way of life for ourselves. But we become so pliable, then bend go this out. We don't stand up for nothing what really makes sense morally, spiritually, physically and emotionally. We're just going along with some things and feel like we don't have no power. So we just throw our power to few people and the majority just remain submissive and take all of the foolishness what they do. We say history and nature. Once we tap in this out, then we understand what we need to deal with. So the next thing we need to check into is there's a strong connection between religion and there's a strong connection between religion and politics. Somehow we probably don't want to look on it to admit it, but yes. So there's a hand in the hand workings going on in the background between politics and religion. One is feeding into the other to help the people and be submissive. Because we now get the true history, forget religiously, nor from an education or a political standpoint.